Welcome to the Blackout Show, presented by the Guillen Grid, a show about the Chicago White Sox baseball, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll debate what's working and what's not on the south side of Chicago. It's old school versus new school baseball. And most importantly, we're keeping all the receipts.
Yo, what is up, everybody? It's Gonzo here. With me tonight is my co-hosts at hand, Justin Lee and Ozzy Guillen Jr. OJ, we've had journalists from Ken Rosenthal to even an ex-former player and Jake Peavy give his takes on this organization, and we have a week of baseball to go. Shit is hitting the fan. History is going to be made this week. OJ, let's get everyone caught up from the old articles up until the latest one that Jesse Rogers did. But let's start off with the Ken Rosenthal article, OJ. Can you give us maybe a take or two of things that stood out in that one? For me, I know it was the airplane one that has been getting people all railed up. But let's start with anything from there that you thought stood out. That's legit.
So nice to see you guys. I know it's been a hard 2 weeks with football and fantasy, and we'll talk about that stuff later. But I was ready to come in here. I've been planning to talk on the show for a while, and again, we're in our group chat, and it feels like an article comes out every single day on the team. At this point, they still haven't broken the record. But the article, the first one, was the Ken Rosenthal, and the part that I wanted to address it is for many years, there's things that you find out. I don't consider myself an insider or someone that wants to break news, but you hear things because you know people, you've been around the team, even though, Ozzy hasn't been there for many years, you're around, people, the players, and you start hearing things. And I never like to share things on social media or on a show that I know that has not been confirmed or shared by somebody else. And then I'll comment on it, but I'm not going to break a story. So, and I feel like I'm here to say, yes, I've heard that, or no, that person's full of it. That wasn't like that. I'm going to give my opinion. But the Ken Rosenthal one, it was good because it's Ken Rosenthal. And I don't think anybody had written an article on the White Sox national-wise since they were going to be the dynasty, the Narnian dynasty that never became. But the part, I think that people are focused. I think the piece was too focused on Jerry being cheap and not so much on what got this team to be like it is. So that first article, I was like, these guys are being petty. So I'll give you the first one. And everybody's seen the picture that has been shared about airplanes and whatnot. There's a union. The union, you cannot just pick any plane that you want. Major League Baseball players are protected by the union, okay? So you have to have certain accommodations for players just because they're Major League Baseball players. The White Sox are in the Midwest, okay? You don't fly a lot of across country. Let's say if you were Seattle or the Marlins or Oakland or another team, you don't need a 757 to go to Kansas City. Okay. And the teams that do have their plane, there's obviously a problem with that. When the plane breaks down, you have to wait longer for them to fix it. When you charter, you just get another plane. But the whole thing on the plane, I thought it was BS. The part on that article where they talked about players were complaining about the family room, that was like a long time ago. That was like during Rick Renteria's era. They fixed that situation. So they made it seem that players weren't happy. So if anyone was complaining on this last roster for the last 2 years, you have nothing to complain about. You're lucky that you're getting food and that you're getting all these things, accommodations.
Damn.
I'm being honest, dude. Like, what? Like you you're in the big leagues. You've lost 100 games 2 years in a row. And all the stuff the article had was stuff from the past that, again, had been addressed. That was the first issue with it. The other one was with analytics, okay? The fact that people say that they don't use it. That's completely wrong. They've used them. Can you argue that they've used them completely wrong? Absolutely. The part that I thought was crazy, Gonzo, and I think it's a common theme consistently, for better or for worse, they can't pick a side. So I thought it was crazy that you had minor league development using one set of data. That's like using one set of scouting reports. And you have the big league team using another set of data. And that falls in that situation on the general manager, the president of the team. Again, I'm going to talk about org because people are confused. Kenny was the president of baseball operations. Kenny answers to Jerry. Rick, as a GM, answers to Kenny. So that doesn't necessarily mean that Kenny's making all the moves at the big league level because he's running the whole org, but he can step in and say, no, this is what we're going with. So there was a situation there where the analytics part, I thought it was nuts. Something so simple, Gonzo, and I know that you're a big pitching guy. That is so key in development. I believe in analytics 1,000,000 more times than I do at the minor league level than I do at the big league level. Because that's how you're going to compare a guy like right now, like Noah Schultz, when he pitches in the minor leagues, to like compare him to big league guys. Whatever data set you're using or whatnot, that's something that you can use because it's really hard to match them up. So the fact that they were so off on data, if you're going to use them right, because if you're going to use them that wrong, might as well not even use them. Because that was a part of that article that I was like, whoa, because I had not heard, by the way, I had not heard that at all. I had never heard a rumor of like, they're using the data wrong, and it's not consistent. I was shocked about that one. I was upset about them calling out dumb stuff like team playing and all that, which is, again, that all the stuff is normal for the plane and the other things have been taken care of. But the analytics part was very concerning because, again, it showed that there was a division of, we don't know, there was two sides to the situation. And I wanted to, because people are like, well, how can you be educated about this? Ozzie Sr., the biggest problem that he had in Miami, and one of the top 3 reasons I think he got fired from Miami, is because when we got there, half of the front office wanted Ozzie to be the manager. And the other half did not want him to be the manager. So from the first day until his last day, it was the struggle of who was in power. And the manager was like in between. And it was like, oh, Gonzo sucks. Well, he's your guy. Well, Jay sucks. Well, he's your guy. And there was no clear structure. For better or for worse, in the years that Ozzie had that were successful, there was a clear structure. It was Jerry, Kenny, Ozzie. Like, yeah, Rick was the assistant, but at the end of the day, it ended with a decision maker. And they would scream at each other and they would yell and they would argue. But you knew, for better or for worse, that they were the bosses. It seems now that from that Rosenthal article, it gets confirmed that there's been this situation of like, we don't know who's doing what. And there's different philosophies as an organization. And I think that was a huge tell and a huge issue of why they are at where they're at today.
Yeah, no, you took a lot of the thoughts that I had in my mind. What about the PV article?
Oh man. Oh boy.
I haven't seen PV in a minute.
I think Jake now, I think I heard he was sober, which is great. I don't drink, so good for him.
Oh, fucking God.
I'm going to say Jake, when he was there, I was friendly with him. I was very friendly with him, so I never had an issue. I was friends with Jake before he came to the Sox. Jake at the time, I think, cared more about what was going off the field than was going on the field. And I think that you can ask teammates, they're going to have an opinion on Jake. Don't think Jake's a bad person. I don't think Jake shared anything that we didn't know about Ozzie and Kenny. It was very obvious at that point that they did not get along, and they got along but didn't get along, and they were always screaming at each other prior to the part that he said that they would scream at each other and like there was argument and conflict. Yeah, there was also argument and conflict when they won the World Series. So players thought it was like funny. It was something. It's how they worked, and it was like when you see a relationship that you're like, how is that relationship even possible? That is toxic, but it works. They've been married for 20 years. That was Ozzie and Kenny. They knew each other. the part where he talked about Joey Cora writing the lineup, Joey Cora did write the lineup. He had better handwriting, but he wrote the lineup that Ozzy would give to him, the lineup that they would discuss and Ozzy would discuss. And, you know, at the time, the people that they used from the front office and, you know, the conversation, Ozzy would say, this is who's going to be playing. And they usually would give him to him the night before, because Ozzy would like to tell players that they had the day off and only in cases of emergency, changes would be made the day of the game. So yes, Joey would write the lineup, but he was trying to make it seem like Ozzy was not in charge. Well, so then Ozzy should have never been let go, because then those years that they didn't make it, then you can't put it on Ozzy. But for better or for worse, those are his lineups. Again, when I say for better or for worse, we used to make fun of my dad for not, you know, I was broadcasting. I'm like, why is Adam still playing? You know, why is this guy not doing this? That's just the nature of the beast. So that part I didn't get. The part that I was really upset, though, the part that really, really, really got me going, like got me going a lot. And I went to a dark place, as Kenny said, where I didn't want to be there as a human being at 40 years old. Also, because I care about Jake, and I don't want to be sharing people's personal stuff. And because I knew Jake very well from a personal end. It's not like I heard. I partook in it. Was when he talked about Herm Schneider.
Oh,
that was so bad. Number one, because I don't think there was anybody that has been more valuable to the White Sox organization as Herm Schneider and the medical staff.
We're living it right now, OJ.
They're living it right now. For better or for worse, was Hermie honest? And he did not agree that maybe they brought Jake because Jake was coming from a horrible injury. You guys can Google his injury. It was
that lat muscle.
It was lat. It was like what's the quarterback's name from the
Drew Brees?
Saints? Drew Brees.
Yeah.
I remember when they explained what had happened to him before they made the trade, and they talked about Drew Brees, and again, not a medical person, but it did not sound great. And Jake bounced back, and Herm Schneider pushed Jake. And Jake, look at his career afterwards. He came with the White Sox and he struggled, you know, because there was health issues, and you know, he didn't pitch great for Ozzy, but then he pitched great for Robin, I think. And then he went on to Boston, and his years were extended. So I don't know if he had a personal beef with Hermie, but to call Hermie out, I'm okay with him calling Ozzy and Kenny out. Like, that's just part of the game. You know, Ozzy probably coached 400 players. 5 may hate him that way. But to call out Hermie, I have not seen the White Sox alumni chats, the little group chats that you're a part of with a couple players, be so upset that he went after Hermie. That was not cool, because that guy only cared about making you be on the field and produce. Did he call you out when you were babying it, or when he potentially would be like, he can pitch today, but he's saying he can't, so he can have an easier opponent? Again, that's his job. He works for the team. So I didn't agree with the Hermie situation, just because I don't think he deserved it. And I didn't want, again, it's a player. You're calling out a guy that meant so much to the organization, who's still around. You know, you see him around, to just call him out like that. I did not agree with that. And that's not what I saw any other time that I was there. I think one of the best things that was there during Ozzy's era, the most consistent, was Herm Schneider and the medical staff. And AT, he called out AT to the strength conditioning coach. I don't think I ever saw Jake in the gym other than in spring training in a season. Again, that's not right or wrong, but I don't think you can call out those two guys during that time. The White Sox were not losing games because of Hermie and AT back then. You can say something different about the era, but the Sox were not losing games back then. And he talked about analytics. Like, yes, Jake, we were not doing Moneyball. We had money. Jerry was spending. Maybe spending it wrong. They traded for you with a huge contract.
Damn!
For 3 games. I'm just saying, like,
fuck.
Well, just saying, Jay, look at the thing. I'm saying you're calling yourself out. Maybe if they were using analytics, they don't trade for him. I'm just being completely honest. Dude, they signed Adam Dunn that offseason. The only person that said that Adam Dunn was not going to work out was Ozzie Guillen, and Greg Walker was iffy about it. Everybody else, including myself and everyone else in my family and all my friends, we were like, this is the greatest signing of all time. Adam Dunn's going to hit 50 home runs. This is what Adam does. And he just struggled that year that he was there. Why? We don't know. It happens. It's baseball. But to say that they were not using analytics, yeah, they're not using it like they are today. Obviously, it wasn't that advanced. But no, we were not Moneyball. We didn't have to be. We didn't have to go find OBP. We had Konerko. We had our dudes.
To be fair, like nowadays, the front office is going to be making your lineups for the most part with how they want things run. But they're paired up with their managers, so it's usually not that big of a deal.
Gonzo, so here's the part. So you're right and you're wrong. So I think now it's done more officially where you do have a meeting that's what it's for. But even before the analytics time, Ozzy would get suggestions. At the end of the day, just like a lot of managers now, like Espada in Houston, you can override, just like Billy Beane does in the movie. Like Billy wants him to not play.
That's why I said nowadays, like you brought it up.
I'm saying even back then, though, the White Sox front office, again, we didn't have a lot of the greatest minds other than Kenny and Rick, but the guys that are working there, they wanted one time for Jim Thome to be the leadoff because he got a lot on base. And Ozzy was like, and who the hell's going to drive him in? So, there's debates. Again, they didn't like Ozzy leading off Juan Pierre. Ozzy again, those debates, but now it's done more like I think now it's more like organized, I would say. Like now I feel like they have a meeting, like they probably have talking points. Back then it was more like they would just come down and be like, hey, this is the suggestions we have. What do you think about this? And to Kenny's credit, Kenny would never let somebody like a junior person come down to have those conversations with Ozzy. He would come out and portray that it was his idea, but it was probably an organizational idea of like, what do you think about this? So it wasn't a meeting with 300 people. And by the way, in those meetings, Don Cooper was there, Joy Cora, Greg Walker, Harold Baines. Don Cooper, when he talked about Coop being the pitching expert, of course he was. That's why him and Ozzy worked so great. Ozzy would manage the bullpen, get a righty-lefty up to make a decision, but Coop made sure that they were healthy, that they had the days that they needed of rest. Him and his bullpen coach managed that. That was their job. And Ozzy let the pitchers do their thing. Was Ozzy going up there and telling guys, this is what you should throw, 2 seamers and stuff? No, that was and I can't wait to have Ozzy and Coop here together because, again, that's another weird relationship that worked amazingly. They were really good together. But when he said, Coop was in charge of pitching, like, wow, thank you, Captain Obvious.
But even with what you're saying with the general manager moves, like if you're batting 250, because you're gonna miss, right? You're gonna miss. But if you're batting 250, you're ahead of the ball. Like that's regardless of the sport, football, basketball, hockey. If you're hitting on 25% of your moves, you're ahead of the game because there's that much. It's that much failure in the front office, and it really goes to show you, how difficult it can be in the best leagues and the best games of the sports that are involved with baseball, football, basketball, and hockey. But let's continue on.
So Gonzo, real quick. So I think that from that part, the part that people don't get is you cannot. I thought it was bullshit. Pardon my language. If you're a kid and listening to this, sorry. That he was blaming Ozzy and a team that was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That I thought for today's failures, because I'm not saying that era was perfect, but it wasn't the same mistakes that were made then. They're not the mistakes here. The mistakes then, it was Ozzy and Kenny were so alpha that when they did not see eye to eye, they both wanted their way so bad that it caused conflict. And sometimes from that conflict came great things. Other times there was a struggle. When you don't win, it's magnified more. But 2 great baseball minds colliding, that was not. So the issue wasn't like we can't get a player. Back then, man, Kenny wanted everybody. He was trying to make moves for like whoever they can get from a top free agent standpoint. And sometimes it was like, no, we can't. I remember one time he came into the office. I'm going to tell a funny story. Strasburg was on the market and he wanted to go get him. And he came down and he wanted to talk to Ozzy and Coop about it. And Ozzy and Coop were like, and Coop thought that he would get hurt. He's a great pitcher, but I'm scared if he can pitch now for us to win because of his tendency of getting hurt. And Kenny was mad. Kenny was like, why did I even come down here? And they're like, well, you came down here for us to give you our baseball input. He was upset. He was like, he left, but that's the game. And he did that with a lot of players and a lot of debates back and forth. So I think that for PV to say that those problems that affected that team are the same ones that affect today are not even close. I don't think that you can compare anyone that's managed the White Sox to Ozzy, and I don't think you can compare anybody that's been the GM to Kenny. I don't see Rick Hahn coming down to anybody's office and shutting it down and having a shouting match. I don't see.
Yeah.
I would laugh if I saw that actually.
Now, for the most part, the Rosenthal PB article, for the most part, a lot of the points in those articles were old news just brought up again to flare things up. But this article today by Jesse Rogers, you can tell by the article, it was very efficient with how they outlined it and went about it, the news that they brought up. Let me put it on the screen here. Let's get things set up here.
Don't try to read this article on one toilet sitting.
So you need what? 2 campfire milkshakes?
Maybe. It's that good and it's that deep. You need you might have to put it on audio while you're chilling in bed.
Damn.
It's good. It's deep. It's deep. They break down literally month by month.
Yeah, OJ, I'm gonna scroll through it, but feel free to stop me. I'll read some of it and stop me where you want me to stop.
Well, I think first, before we get off, I think Jesse did an amazing job. So kudos to Jesse. The only part that I did not agree was the part where he said that Pedro Grifol had a great resume to be a big league manager. Yes, he did compared to me, compared to people that are not in the game. But compared to people that are big league ready managers, his resume was okay, average, but not a great resume. Like, if you're going to talk about a great resume, you're like, Bruce Bochy's got a great resume. So that's the only part that I disagreed with, out of the whole great article.
So we scrolled through the second page about where it starts talking about Liam Hendricks and the press conference with being the cancer out, and it goes and says that. Now again, these are just some of the names they threw out there with Grayman, Lynn, and Kelly. Not saying that's entirely true, but that's what was pivoted to the conversation here, saying that they weren't showing up to the press conference.
So it's a press conference for Liam saying that he's coming back from cancer. Okay. The part where I thought about this part of the article that was very eye-opening and calling out the media is that something we knew that it was true. They kept saying that this is a family, they love each other, to the point where you're like, they're lying, okay? The part of this article that, yes, Liam did go through cancer. Yes, Liam beat it. That is amazing. It shows you the dynamics of why having a manager is so important, okay? So they hired Pedro Grifol, number one. Jasmani Grandal had a lot to do with that. I still believe that. The Miami connection. But they thought that he would unite the team. So something that we knew even beforehand to the interview process was that the team had factions. So I was going to use a more intense kind of analogy, but I'm going to go with the more PG version of it. Think about high school. Everyone's sitting at their lunch tables. That's what a major league clubhouse is like. Okay, people have cliques, have friends. There's different styles. So people have religion, beliefs, everything beliefs. Just think across the board. You're at your office. I think Liam rubbed players the wrong way because of just in general. So players, I guess, did not feel like they needed to be there. That's a problem. Why? The first thing a manager needs to do in order to be successful in a Major League Baseball team, regardless of what the players think, believe, anything in general, the manager needs to make sure that all that stuff is put aside when in the clubhouse and in the uniform, and that the number one focus is the team. Okay? And I'm talking across the board, because think like if you're in the military, you guys are together. I know that's the wrong comparison to war, but you're kind of pulling from the same rope. So that's something that a manager needs to establish in a point of leadership, because you need to stand up for all your teammates. So the whole team should have been there, even if they didn't want to be there, but they should have been there out of respect. And it should have been the spectacle where they needed to tell guys, you need to be there. Basically the person says that had to happen, because you're being a good teammate. One of your teammates, a guy that saves games for you, if you're the starter and Liam comes in and saves a game for you, you make money, you benefit from it. So that's something that I think it's BS, because even if you don't agree with Liam and vice versa, you have to stand up for your teammate. The part where people are making it seem that it's like Liam's in the right, that he could have rubbed all these people the wrong way, and that's a different story, because again, you have to be everyone's got to respect each other. So the part of the story that was like ironic was that there's this huge break in the clubhouse. Once again, there was like the people that were there on Tony's side before when Tony got hired, then when Pedro, and then people started taking like factions and teams. And I know that's a fact because I know that Rick Hahn, for example, was a huge guy on Asmani Grandal. And I know that was a struggle with Tony at first. And he was a big dictator of what happened in the clubhouse. And certain guys were given certain powers. That's what is said that affected the kind of dynamics of in the clubhouse. So in clubhouse, and it's why I said that Grady Sizemore, the amount of clubhouse drama has lowered. He should use it as a positive for him. So this clubhouse drama, again, the part that's really funny about this, Gonzo, and ironic and kind of painful is that, think about this. All those rookie players, Cease, Andrew, guys that have been in the big leagues less than 3-4 years, they're all witnessing this. This is a toxic culture.
They got a front row
part of. Yeah, it's a toxic culture they're all part of.
And I think I highlighted the sentence for you guys and for our podcasters. Article says that his friends believe he would have been focused on the day-to-day work, but instead he felt compelled to tend to a fractured clubhouse. And even when and again, you brought up
that's about Pedro, right? That's about Pedro.
Yeah, it's about
he kept
Pedro.
saying that they were okay. Yeah. He thought everything was fine. These guys were all like, rioting.
And you brought up Grandal and the TA, the Middleton stuff, which is what we talked about in the past. But I wanted to come down here because this actually sticks out to me right here. It states, and this is Grafal speaking, I missed having healthy players. It's not an excuse. That's just the reality. I missed having Liam Hendricks and other really good players able to perform. It wasn't the players' fault. They just got hurt. And to me, OJ, how can you throw Hendricks out there when you're 0-94 in the 7th, 8th, 9th innings of the game? Like, you can't even get to your bullpen. So
that's why he's clueless. That's why he's clueless. And it sounded like that he read a meditation, a book on management, and he would talk. And that's why people think that the reason that I'm so hard on Pedro is because Ozzy got beat for the job, and it's not. You guys have seen the tweets. You guys have seen. We could have had Joe Espada. We could have had Carlos Mendoza. We could have had Steven. We could have had a list of guys that are in the playoffs. Okay, guys that I'm not saying that this team would have won 100 games, but the culture would have been better. The fact that Grifol failed this organization and Rick in two ways. They failed them on wins and losses, and they failed the culture that was built inside of the clubhouse. So the following statement from the player was that they would say something. They would not say anything when things were going good, but kind of like just talk when things were going bad. But if you're the manager and you think that you have that bad of a record and that you think that your closer is going to fix that, you're nuts. You're literally delusional. So I think that yes, there were injuries, but even with the injuries, you still were not able to fix. You were just playing really bad baseball.
Yes, it's like Pedro don't even understand. Some of these losses happen before the lineup card gets even handed out. We don't even have a chance. We've built no foundation. Like all of this stuff being said about the clubhouse, it used to be a surprise because, as a fan, we don't really know anything that happens in that dugout around that locker room. But this last calendar, like, it all came into light, and I'm starting to understand why these things are taking place, guys. It sucks, bro.
And guys, this the part where I say that I think one of Jerry's blind spots, because everybody has them. I think that I've always said this. He never stepped in and told Ozzy and Kenny, stop it, end this, or you guys will both be in trouble like a parent. He never did. He always wanted them to figure it out on their own, which I thought was a mistake. I think that in this situation, he never stepped in and said, hey, you have to do something about this and say, Kenny, do your job on Rick, okay? And then coming in and putting that pressure on Pedro and saying, we need to take care of this. And that's done to a team meeting, getting rid of certain players. He would talk after the players would leave, okay? And there was such a huge focus on TA. I don't know why, maybe because he was the most voiceful, but he was one of the he was one of the players there, but in reality, he wasn't the main problem. The problem was, from a fan standpoint, was that they loved Lance Lynn and his screaming and, hitting his belly, and because they loved him. Oh, look at him. But then once they found out his beliefs and that he's on the other side of the Liam, now they don't like him. And Graveman, same thing. But if you really get to know these guys, you're like, oh, I know that the person tweeting about him probably wouldn't like him just because of their beliefs. So now we're seeing that they let guys that get a hold of the clubhouse, and the manager never was able to. I don't think Pedro Grifol ever had the clubhouse. So I can't even say that he lost it. He never had it. He never did. So that was a problem that they never addressed and realized this is a problem. And that's how you compound a bad team plus the bad clubhouse. That's how you start getting to 120 plus losses.
And a lot of this, I'm glad that Deech brought it up here in our chat, but a lot of people are confusing the timeline here because, and again, I just highlighted it here in the article here. Tony was, again, this is what Rogers even put that I highlighted here, saying that Reinsdorf wasn't interested in AJ Hinch and wanted to go with this guy LaRussa, and he goes into what he felt was the opinion of the whole 86 situation that happened then. And he even says that Reinsdorf here declined to speak about this article or the story back a couple months ago. But the fact was, it says LaRussa was hired without Hinch even going through a formal interview with the White Sox. But let's just keep in mind, guys, for the fact that Tony, I mean, maybe this is opinionated here saying that he was the right hire, but Tony won the division back in, 21. This was 3 years ago.
So Gonzo, Tony won with this toxicity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Tony won the division with this toxicity happening, with guys being hurt, with guys all hating each other. He still won the division and held it with like a Band-Aid, because all this stuff that they're talking about now, it was happening when he was the manager. And I think they thought, okay, the reason that they didn't sign Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, any other top free agent is because they thought Moncada was Manny Machado. They thought Pantera was Bryce Harper. They thought Eloy was Kyle Schwarber. And they didn't need those guys. And then they thought that the team was good enough that they needed to stop developing, and they got rid of Rick Renteria, and they brought in a guy who's been a great clubhouse manager, who knows the X's and O's, and brought Tony. And then Tony, even at his age, was holding it together. Okay? Then Tony has to go down 81. He leaves the team at 81 and 81. And then Jerry basically says, I'm going to let you guys finally pick your player. Mind you, Rick Hahn at this point has messed up with every free agent he's signed. But they let him pick the manager. And he went and picked Pedro Grifol.
Correct. And again, Tony won the division with all the injuries and everything of that roster, that toxicity, everything that was going on back then. 3 years later, finally, the Tigers with Hinch are fighting. Now, they haven't clinched yet, guys. They're fighting for a wild card spot right now. That's not to say they're going to get it, but they are the hottest team right now over the past month of baseball. And in my opinion, that's more so what the front office put together out there in Detroit, not to what Hinch has truly done with that roster, or I should say his coaching, his manager decisions in the game situations. But again, we're going to see how that ends up. And again, I did say in the preseason that I thought they were going to win the division, but that's just from the talent I saw that was being put together. Part of that reasoning was Screwball, who I said was going to be their ace, and I got a lot of shit for that. But look what Screwball did through
You're right. You're right about
whole entire season. Who he could be the AL Cy Young. It looks like that's going to be legit.
Gonzo, but here's the part where people don't, and I'm gonna now talk about it in hindsight. AJ Hinch is a great manager. Okay. At the time, and this is something across baseball. It's something that the Tigers took a chance on him. Okay. He was coming off a suspension where he cheated in baseball. Yeah. And he didn't take responsibility. He basically put it on other people. He basically says, and you guys can go look back, I couldn't control my players and I couldn't control my coaching staff. And then they went and did this, and now I'm getting in trouble. So there was a lot of people in the industry that said, this guy's a horrible clubhouse guy because if he can't control players, what else are they going to get away with? Okay. Obviously, he's surpassed that and he has successfully brought another team. But I think that was a lot of the hesitation of, do I want to bring in a guy who just came off a suspension? There's rumors about him cheating. Okay. There's rumors about him being way more involved. He threw other people under the bus, did not take the responsibility for what's going on. Basically said he didn't have the power. Mind you, when he made all these comments, he already had been managing the big leagues for 6 years. So a lot of people said, he's not our guy. Not just the White Sox. A bunch of teams passed out up on him. So Jerry said, I'm going to bring in a guy who's a Hall of Famer, who I think is basically going to put the team on cruise control and win. And little did Tony know, probably, he walks in and he finds this mess of all these players hating each other and all the fractions and all the issues and manages to win the division. Until then, he leaves the team at 81 and 81. Again, toxic in the clubhouse, yes, but 81 and 81. You could say the same thing about the Chicago White Sox in other seasons when they've won. There was toxicity. There was problems. There was drama, but they were 81 and 81. Pedro gets hired, and it's like the downfall of, 100 games now, 120. So I love the fact, Gonzo, like you're scrolling down when they're breaking this down. I love the fact how they talked about the part where they talked about Crochet and the decision to make him a starter and how that worked out, of him, throwing less pitches and being more efficient because they could flip him. Eric Fetty. But again, the part here I think gets interesting is when they start talking about Grifol and the players, in the Corey Lee situation.
Yeah.
That shit was sick too, because like Corey Lee was fighting for his life. He was playing good baseball, and then you have that type of riff post game. It was like unnecessary. And I think that's at the end of the day, that's what we're gonna look at Pedro Grifol's tenure as, unfucking necessary, bro.
Yeah.
Gonzo, you miss Grifol grounds?
Oh, that's a good segue, because I think I'm about done with this article after going through this nauseating.
I think you just have to go deep. And
Gonzo's about to fucking puke.
No, I'm just saying. I think that you have to realize that there's on the field management, and then there's clubhouse and building culture, which I think Grady Seisman right now has a little leg up. People like him. It seems that I think that's how he got chosen. They asked players who's the guy that we least hate in here. He's playing the game. Pedro was a detriment in the office. This is the problem I'm going to end it up with before you guys are going to think this is funny. So we realized in the article that how Chris Getz was selected. Tony told Jerry, I think this is the guy. Okay. And the Chris Getz era starts. And now we know that he's an advisor. And people that think that they're both doing a horrible job, again, that's their opinion. I think it's the ultimate FU from Tony to the fans that called him a racist and a drunk and booed him when he won the division and said that he was not worthy and he was horrible. And in 81 and 81, I think it's the ultimate payback. Sitting from the top saying, okay, now you guys are going to understand what suffering is. How crazy would that be? How crazy, how wild would that be? I loved it. When I read it, I said, I love the fact that it was Tony helping them make the decision and said, hey, this is going to be our guy. And to the credit, again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to close out before our next segment. People have asked me when I think that this could have been fixed, changed. And I'm going back with all the success they might have had afterwards or draft picks. I think that once they got rid of Ozzie Guillen was a scapegoat for a long time. He was like the bad guy. He was loud and they didn't like him. Fans didn't like him. It was Ozzie. People would call Chris Ranji on 670 to score. And it's this Hispanic guy. He's horrible. No one wants to play for him. And everybody knew it was BS. All the players, his son Oni's toxic. And all this BS, all this stuff that, the media was pertain. And Ozzie ends up, they don't reach it. Ozzie gets traded. He ends up in the Marlins. White Sox move on. They fail. That team fails in 2012. In that moment is when a normal team would have said, thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Rick. We're going to let you guys go. And in that moment, you basically start fresh, what the Houston Astros did. and you start a new run. That, because you just ended a great era, 04, to 11, Kenny, Ozzy, that duo, Rick Bean, being there taking notes for Kenny, kind of got that stuff out. 2012, you don't think it works out. There's when you should have made the move. They thought that Rick was the guy. They thought he was a genius, which I give Gonzo. Hopefully, Poles is not that guy, because a lot of the comparisons are the same. He's a genius. He's this, but we don't know until we don't know. And that was a situation with Rick was the wrong guy picked, and then that's what started this kind of fall down of where we're at today. That, looking back, they could have been fixed a lot of times throughout the process, but that probably would have been the most clean. Just end that era, move on, get rid of all those guys, get more ahead in analytics, just bring something fresh. They thought it was Ozzy, then they lingered. And other than Jake Peavy, who just blamed Ozzy, I think people have realized at this point it might have not been him, and they are where they are now. And again, you're going to play the game of where it's at, and people are going to defend. But I think it comes down to this. We've seen two sides. There seems to be no boss. It's always like, what side are you on? So even now I can draw an org chart and say, okay, well, Tony's with Team Getz. And there should never be a doubt. Like we're a show. We shouldn't be like, even on this show, like, hey, Gonzo's doing this, Jay's doing that. Even if the show's good, bad, or indifferent, we always need to pull. And anything in life, that's how you do it. So that's the part where I think is a common theme that the organization should read this and get to it and say, man, we've been just like pulling from this to the wrong rope. We haven't all been on the same page. That's what I think that should be learned from the article.
I like your shirt, by the way. Before we go,
this one. I wore it for today because it's an Ozzy shirt. You don't like the message. You like the message, but you hate the messenger. And it's Ozzy doing the Bobby Jinx.
Wow.
Is it available on the site?
Not yet. I'm going to put it up. It was an old one that I made a
dog.
long time ago. I'm going to make it up. Now it's more relevant than ever. Ozzy is not the softest, kindest guy when he talks to you. Trust me, I'm his son. But the message is usually on point, and sometimes it's honest, sometimes it hurts, sometimes it's, it's a big wake up, but it's right. Do we think Grady is going to legitimately shot at being the manager? Oh, perfect transition. Thank you, Southside.
Yes. So Justin asked me the question, what am I thinking about, or am I thinking about Grifal's grounds? And the answer is no, I'm thinking about Grady's grounds, and I got to create my next segment clip this off season. That's if it's going to be Grady, but thank you for asking the question. That's what we're diving into now. Because guys, we saw the rumor I shouldn't say the rumor, at the press conference with Chris Getz. He brought up, given or allowing, things to play out this, season, let it finish, and then from what they've seen, they like what they've seen from Grady. So he said that he's going to have a shot here in the hiring process, but he started talking about wanting to go get someone from the outside of the organization, which Grady was from the outside of the organization. After he wrapped up his career, he was hired away. So, but we also saw a rumor of the Dodgers organization with their first base coach, Clayton. Is it McLeod? Is that how you said, OJ? You're muted.
So he's
OJ.
muted.
He's always.
It's once a show. So thank you, Jay. I have to do it once. So I'm playing. I love the fact that he's an outside hire. I love the fact how everybody on Twitter said, "Oh my God, what a resume! What a great guy! He's been a minor league director and he's been coaching in the minors and developing." Minor league development is not the same as big league managing. Okay, you have a problem with culture in the clubhouse. We have to see more articles. This guy is coaching first base in the Dodgers for a reason. Find out why he's not in another position, not a first base coach. Sorry to all the first base coaches out there. You're the first base coach. You might know some things about baseball.
The first base coach hit piece right here.
Well, I'm just saying, you're the first base coach. You only carry more gear than the bat boy. By the way, that's an open baseball known thing. Okay, so yes, you might be a baseball genius, but I just love how everybody on the Sox bandwagon jumps on this guy. This is the guy. He's so smart because he's playing with the Dodgers. So they think when he comes here, they're gonna sign Ohtani and they're gonna do Freeman and they're
I
gonna
just
do.
want to say, OJ.
Oh wait, well, who have the Dodgers developed? Vargas? Did he develop Vargas? Because I don't want that development. I don't. I'm being completely honest. So for everybody out there saying this guy's great with player development, Vargas, the guy that you're ripping 2 tweets later, is from the Dodgers. The Dodgers, look at the Dodgers, go to FanGraph. You don't have to pay for it. Look how the Dodgers were built. This BS that the Dodgers are built from internal, we're homegrown, is not true. Tampa? Pirates? Yes. So all the cheap teams. Astros? By the way, Astros, even with the
Red Sox.
Reds, I'm saying even with the trash can situation, that's 8 playoffs. That's wild. I've told you this a million times, Gonzo. I will go get Jeff Luhnow.
Think about this.
And make him everybody's boss.
I just want to say this since we're chirping a little bit about the Astros. There was one point this season where I was like, you know what? All right, Altuve's old. Time to hit the rebuild button. We haven't heard from Lance McCullers in 2 years. Like Christian Javier's dead. Framber Valdez only throwing 2 no-hitters a month. That's not enough. And then they turned it into another division, bro.
Well, by the way, with the third manager.
3 different guys, bro.
It's like when you're in a marriage, they got caught cheating, had another spouse, had a baby outside the marriage.
Doesn't matter.
Renew their vows. They've survived it. They got fired from their favorite job. They've survived it all. Again, bring Jeff Luhnow, make him the leader of this team. Tell him whatever he wants. Help us build. Bring him to the analytics. Again, whatever they need to do, they do. So when people talk about the Dodgers, Gonzo, they think that because the guy that was the GM in Tampa went to the Dodgers and he kept GMing the same way. No, he didn't. They gave him a big wallet and he went to spend. The White Sox need to realize and say, who is the best team that's like us? Cleveland, for example. Okay, they got a great deal with Jose Ramirez. I don't know who did Clase's contract. He should go to jail because that's the worst contract in Major League Baseball history. Only worse to Scottie Pippen. But bless their heart, they did a great job. But like homegrown Atlanta Braves, like who's got the homegrown talent? So the part where you're talking about homegrown talent, they already started making moves. International guy in Severino, allegedly going to be running the international scouting department. Then you got Keller overseeing everything. So you got to build that side in order to move forward. So when you got people saying this guy's the right guy, because first of all, you're on Twitter, unless you're Elijah, our guy, or in the 5%, you don't know who's coaching first base for the Dodgers. Stop making it up that you know who it is. You just Wikipedia'd him, put it on AI, on ChatGPT, and you looked up the guy.
Put it on AI.
I'm just saying, though, people are pretending that he's the guy because he's on the Dodgers. So I said, okay, we're going to think outside the box. I gave Gonzo a name. I shared it. So we're going to play this game of guys that don't have big league experience.
Yeah, you did.
He played in the big leagues. Okay, been around the game forever. Great college player.
Tampa's guy.
He's been in Houston. Houston's guy originally. Houston minor league. Tampa minor league. Okay. He's the current third base AAA manager for the Durham Bulls. Okay.
Bulls, yeah.
In Tampa. He's supposed to be super analytical. This dude, and I think this is wild, just took the managing job in Venezuela for a team that has been struggling to be the manager so he can compete at a higher level and become more of a clubhouse manager. So you're basically a good clubhouse manager in Venezuela. You pretty much can run a big league thing. You want to talk about nutty players? That's you want to talk about drama and people being nuts? Go to a Venezuelan winter ball team. Want to talk about egos and people doing some crazy stuff? Jasiel Puig is like a baby in diapers in those clubhouses. It's not easy. Trust me, we live it. We deal with it. It's wild. So he's taking on that challenge. The dude is an American guy who's bilingual in Spanish. So I'm like, okay, I hope they interview him. Why? He's got way more credentials than the other guy. So we need to stop jumping on the wagon. And that's why I said.
What's the guy's name?
Oh, hold on. I just went blank.
Because I might have played MVP baseball.
While you're looking him up, my point is this. I don't care what organization you go to grab that person from, but they better be the right hire from that organization. Like, and I know we just talked about Deech with his comment, but he brought up Pedro, and that's the exact thing I'm talking about. Is you go to grab Pedro from the Royals while they just promote their own and Quintero, and then he is on the verge of becoming the coach of the year, a candidate. So again, whoever's going to be, you better be right, because I'm
Gonzo, but
tired
White Sox
tired of
fans
missing.
White Sox fans jumped on Pedro Grifol, and they had no idea who Pedro Grifol was. Because if they did, they would have been tweeting about him. He was a bench coach for a 100 losing game team 3 years in a row. Pedro Grifol goes to bed every night losing. Every night for the past 8 years. He was, when they said he's a World Series coach. No, he was on the team, but he's not an official coach. He was the bullpen catcher. He was Mark Salas. He was Gabe. He was, again, by the way, if you're going to go like that, Mike Gellinger, the current White Sox assistant hitting coach, is a way bigger part of the White Sox World Series ring than Pedro was with the Kansas City Royals. Guys worked in the minor leagues for like 350 years. Was one of the hitting gurus with Paul Konerko, with Brett Walker. We're going to start playing that game. Well, maybe Gelly should be the manager. So people just jump. White Sox fans need to stop jumping on the marketing. He's the guy. When everybody said this, Pedro Grifol is going to be the manager. Why? Because Pedro Grifol, guys, before he got on the field, was a great front office guy. Was going to be one of the Latinos that was going to be the next general manager. He was Omar Minaya 2.0. And when he didn't get his shot at Seattle, he decided to take the field. Mad respects for him. I still think Pedro Grifol would be great for any front office, because I believe that front office work and player development is not the same as big league manager. Guess what? I would think Ozzie Guillen would be a horrible front office guy as a general manager, but he'd be a great manager. So both are not the same, okay? So now with this, like Gonzo just said, you need to do your homework, and you need to go and find out and do, like with the game we're playing right now, that the person's name is Morgan Ensberg. I think he played at USC. He was a Trojan.
Yeah, he was third baseman for the Astros.
Correct, but he coached in the minor league system for the Astros.
Oh yeah, he put in work.
He put in work. So I know the Astros minor league system, regardless of what you think about their cheating scandal, they are doing things there that have always been cutting edge. Osney coached there for a while. That's why I know the White Sox were so far behind in the analytics game and what they're doing. By the way, I thought it was funny, guys, when they said they don't use analytics or anything. They use the wrong stuff, because they've had that, they call it like the mobility center or the mobility lab, where guys talk about their movements and stuff. I think that should be in the minor leagues for development. Once you're in the big leagues, that's too late for your movement. You just got to figure it out. But I think if you're going to do that, I think that Chris needs to stop talking, meaning not stop talking to the media, but stop saying like what the criterias are, because it's like when you're with your best friends, okay? And you've always been telling people, yeah, my girlfriend's going to be like a PhD, and she's going to have blonde hair, and she's going to be making like $300,000, and she'd be like pre-med. And you've been telling your friends all this for like 3 years. And then the girl that they bring to date, or the guy, is nowhere near it. Like missed the mark completely. And you're like, I thought you didn't even hit close. And your friends just call you out and have fun with you. And, they crack jokes and you take it. Every time he talks and says, we're not going to hire somebody from within the organization. And then you say, well, all these guys eliminated. We're not going to hire someone that's not. He needs to stop doing that, because, for example, Grady Sizemore, again, the wins and losses have not been the greatest, because, again, this roster is horrible. But he's a very likable guy. Players appreciate him. I think he's great for a young player culture. You got guys like Sergio Santos that is doing great things in the minor league system with the Sox. I don't want to bring him up necessarily, because he seems like he's developing guys down there very well. Congrats to them winning. I told you there's a great development process, because winning at that level is great, because it means that you can probably keep winning at every level until you get to big leagues and figure it out. But you need to stop saying this is what we're going to do and not do, and just basically interview guys and find the right candidates for the org. And Gonzo, not even for manager. I feel like when you're interviewing for the manager position, it's like when you're interviewing, you're doing a casting call, okay, for a big show, or like everybody reads for the main character's part. And then you say, nah, I think Jay's not great for the main character, but I think he's great for this role. I think the more great baseball minds they talk to, the more positions you can fill out in the organization and say, man, I really want to take Gonzo, from this team and bring him here. Craig Abernathy with the Kansas City, with the Cleveland Guardians, who's been with Stephen Vaught. I went to college with him. He'd be a great guy to talk to, not to manage, but maybe be in the coaching staff. Mark Hallberg, and give those guys like a more responsibility. But I think Grady should be considered, and just have him as a head guy, and maybe surround him with great baseball people. Because number one, you're going to be making the lineups for him, which is fine, as long as he agrees with it. Great culture guy. He's handled the losses great, where you don't want to punch him in the face. Because that's, by the way, you have to be prepared mentally to lose that many games. Like, you have to be like, this is what I'm doing. And you have to have that personality. And I think Sizemore is quirky enough and doesn't think that he's a genius, that he's going to turn it right around. And that might be the formula. And then once you get those guys developed.
He's relatable.
He's relatable, correct. By the way, I would be enjoying this so much more if it was Pedro managing. Because I know he would be saying things like, we're going to get him tomorrow. We're not going to give up. Moncada will be playing, like it would just be more fun. Like, it would just be doing things. It would just be funnier because he would just be full of it. Like, again, going back to the Bears, it's my concern with the Bears coach is that he thinks he's smarter than he is. That he knows more. And one of the things, again, I want to change the subject, was that I didn't send in the group chat. I loved it when the Caleb came off the field and was complaining about the plays. And I said, that's a great sign for him, not for your coaching staff, when a guy that just got to the league knows that you guys are calling the wrong plays. And he's like, I've seen better than this. I expect more. That's what you don't want. You want a coaching staff that's relatable, that your players grow together. Because now it's important, man. Why? You don't want Noah Schultz. You don't want Carroll. Even if they're not going to be great superstars, you don't want them to grow in an environment of what we just read about in the last 3 articles.
I got to give you a shout out for putting in the group chat that E-Trio is available to come teach us our outfielders like Robert how technique should be in the outfield.
Well, I'm saying people talk about Bill Veeck like he's a genius. You want this team to be fine. Oh, if you're going to do that, make Ozzie the manager, make AJ the first base coach, bring Ichiro. Just make it like a certain, like, if you're going to do that.
Let Carl Leverett be the hitting coach.
Let Carl be the big Frank. Again, but if you think that you're going to hire the manager and it's going to fix overnight, someone that's never had experience, like, the only person that I think could come in and say, I've done this before, is Buck Showalter. I think he's the best candidate out there saying, I've built winners as a manager at the big league level. This is the players that I've created. He's done it multiple times. Everybody else, you either won a World Series and you want to like sit through the pain, Ozzie, Sosha, older guys, but everybody you bring in like, oh, that guy's going to be great. Where did he develop? By the way, when you're in the minor leagues, you're making $100,000. When you're in the big leagues, you're in the big leagues, baby. So you have to deal with guys saying, oh, this plane is too small. We need more first class. You need somebody to put Gonzo. When Ozzie Guillen took over this team, there was a lot of characters. Carlos Lee, Maglio. People think that those guys were like wild, like meaning like had bad reps. When they signed the free agents, people were like, wait, you signed who? What? Like, you signed who? Like, did you know what he just did in San Francisco? Did you just sign Carl Everett? Like, the only guy that they were missing was like Elijah Dukes, meaning from like a bad rep. Wait, you guys traded for Freddie Garcia? Like, man, Freddie Garcia is like super confrontational. So El Duque Hernandez, but they brought a guy who had been in the clubhouse that was able to control all those egos by him making himself the center of attention and, the guy. And those guys were just being able to play and do their thing and not talk about religion. That stuff's great off the field. I know fans hate that, but it's all, you can't, when there's chapel, guys go and do chapel in the room. They don't say everybody got to do chapel. Just like when, guys are watching hunting shows, and it's something as simple, Gonzo, as like music in the clubhouse. The starting pitcher picks music. Why? Some guys like rap, some guys like opera. You have to find the common ground. I think Grady, in that aspect, I think he fits a lot of the criteria. And I'm like, why not? At least if you're going to lose, at least make the guy likable.
So let's transition. Actually, before we transition, one more thing I want to add, OJ. I was right. I'm so happy they did this. Getz put Edgar Cuero right after he got healthy for a week, put him on the taxi squad.
Yeah.
Finally, I can actually be happy about something here. And hopefully he gets, a couple at bats here this last week of baseball. But let's transition. Our last segment. Get some baseball talk, not just White Sox talk, but let's get to our all-time series. Today's all-time series is going to be designated hitter. Gentlemen, give me your designated hitter and where you put them in your lineup. Let's go Justin, OJ, and then I'll
of all time?
Of all time.
All time. Go ahead, Justin.
So my DH. Oh, this
If
is
you
gonna
take
kill
mine, I'm gonna stab you.
This is gonna kill me.
Oh, we know who you're gonna say.
It's gonna kill
Wait,
me.
what is he? Wait, what has he been?
Hey, shut up.
Listen.
I don't want to hear your shit right now.
Listen.
He's, where Tommy's been? He's been tending Landon, making sure Landon
my DH and
gets
he's
into college ball.
8th is gonna kill me because it's too low for him. You're gonna have to give me David Ortiz.
Oh yeah, I was happy you said it.
Yeah, I mean,
your lineup's 04. Your all-time lineup. You got Nomar at short. You got Ortiz as DH. I like what you're doing.
Manny and left.
Hey. Okay, now I know where you're going in left field.
No, I just wanted a left-handed stick. I usually troll in these situations. I was probably gonna pick Russell Branyan or Jack Cuss, but I was like, you know what? I don't want you guys to bully me and yell at me. So I'm going with Big Papi. Resume speaks for itself. Over 500 home runs, a lot of hits, a lot of RBIs, ring, and all type of bling. Batting 8th, my DH, Big Papi.
That's disgusting.
Yeah,
I'll let you go.
All that speed at the bottom. All that speed at the bottom of the lineup, baby.
You could have had him as your leadoff hitter.
Who does he look like? Jim Thome?
By
the way, hold on, wait. You know what? By the way,
all right, go ahead.
Jim Thome would be a great leadoff hitter if the Phillies have Kyle Schwarber leading off, and you're not worried about who's going to be driving him in behind him.
By the way, who hits behind Kyle Schwarber?
Who's number 2? Trey Turner?
Okay.
Yeah.
Who Trey Turner on the White Sox? Yeah, okay. Pass.
No, who's the shortstop in 06? What, Uribe?
By the way, they didn't want him leading off in 06. They wanted leading him off like later in like 07, 08, 09. Like they didn't want him leading off in 06. Talking about like when Jermaine, like those guys were like gone. They're talking about later in the
fuck that. Who's gonna drive him in?
That's what we said.
Is that Alexa?
He was the best.
Alexa gonna have like 62 RBIs a year.
That's what we said. I said yes. Jim Thome is the best leadoff hitter. He's also the best second hitter. He's also the best third hitter, the fourth hitter, and he is the best hitter.
You're gonna need like 3 Jim Thomes if
I'm just saying, but the person at the time, Dan Fabian. Oh, sorry, I just said his name. Wanted Jim Thome. Dan Fabian, yeah, he's still there. Wanted Jim Thome to be the leadoff hitter, and we're like, yes, he is the great best leadoff hitter in analytics. Yes. And I said he's also the best hitter at every position in the lineup because he is Jim Thome.
Alexi won Jim Thome too, and I'll ride out with that.
Or Juan Pierre at 2. Jim Thome won. Juan Pierre 2. Let's get wild.
I really wish, Justin, that I was keeping track of your lineup because I feel like you had someone at your 8th hole already.
Okay. Prove it.
Keep track of your lineup, bro.
I got David Ortiz batting 7th or 8th. How about that?
Bottom of the lineup.
Oh, you know what? No, he has to bat 7th. Bagwell's 8th.
Oh, okay.
Bagwell's 8th.
You want me to go, OJ, or are you?
Yeah, please.
You're plugging away because you got to tell my stories. That's why I was going last because I know story time is going to be eventful.
Oh, you can say it. You just gave it away.
I know.
Just say it.
All right. My idol, Jim Thome, is my all-time designated hitter. 22 years in baseball, Hall of Famer. His career stats are a 276 average, 402 OBP, 554 slug, 976 OPS, 147 OPS plus, 612 home runs, 5 All-Star games, 1 Silver Slugger. He was a 2006 Comeback Player of the Year and a 73.1 WAR, which actually was better than Chipper. So he is going to be in the 6th hole in my lineup. So my lineup at the moment is A-Rod in the 2 spot at short, Pujols number 5 at first base, 6 Tommy, designated hitter, and then 7 is Chipper playing third, 8th is Pudge at short, 9 is Joe Morgan at second base. So my lineup holes at the moment is 1, 3, 4. Yeah, 1, 3, 4. That is to come with the outfield.
So a quick question.
Do not
Yep.
come.
How many home runs did Jim Tomey hit as a DH?
Oh, that's a good one.
205.
Yeah. So you literally just picked the worst DH of the 3 of us.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
David Wright
I'm not putting him at first or third.
Hold on, wait, time out. David Wright was a better third baseman than Jim Tomey was a DH. And you guys laughed at me.
But he doesn't have 600 home runs.
Jim don't need
it. Yeah, I'm gonna say a little quick on Jim Tomey. I think that, in my opinion, guys that played in the Ozzie era at the position, I admired him because he didn't have to be DHing, meaning he could have been at home chilling with his family and kids. But he was a real DH. He was a very scary guy. At the true position, I just think that is unfair to him, meaning it sucks for him because it's like he was never a full-time DH, which means he raked a lot as he played first and third base. So I think had they made him a DH full-time from the beginning, I think he would have just destroyed David Ortiz. It's like I'm saying Jim Tomey is getting affected because his defense is better than David Ortiz.
Yes. And that and David Ortiz never played in the National League. Jim Tomey played in
the Phillies.
Yeah, Phillies, Bob Selig's league. And OJ, to your point, let's just say, for the sake of argument, instead of going to Philly, Jim Tomey was just a DH there instead of Travis Hafner.
Oh God, in Cleveland?
Philly or Cleveland? Philly.
Oh, in Cleveland, he might hit 700.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, Gonzo, what I'm saying, instead of leaving Cleveland to go to Philly, what if he just stayed in Cleveland and just ate
just
of
just DH. Well, Travis Hafner.
That's a short porch in both spots.
Well, he just hit 200. He hit Travis Hafner actually
outside of the stadium where one of his home runs landed.
By the way, Travis Hafner is actually very underrated. He had 200 home runs as a DH.
Wrong.
You know, as a DH in the position, he's very underrated. I'm going to do some honorable mentions, which I was dabbling in. I think that Harold Baines, Paul Molitor, and Edgar Martinez were the original DHs because they cannot play another position due to their injury. Okay? What does that mean? That means that something happened to you. For Harold, it was in the outfield. For Edgar, it was the knees at third base. That you could not play the field. And Paul Molitor as well. And you became this amazing, just hitter. And you were in the American League and you just raked. You were a great player prior to the DHing, but you ended majority of your career at DH because an injury situation. I think Joe Mauer should be on the list because he more than catching because he was a DH more times than he catch probably. But I'm going to go with a first baseman. I don't think that I had him at first base. I could have gone with Frank Thomas, who actually hit more home runs than Jim Tomey at the DH position. 269, 275, 394 with 1,310 games. But again, he became a full-time DH because he was with the White Sox. So I would say that if I had to pick somebody as the all-time DH, the true all-time DH, the guy that hit the best as a full-time DH, I would go with Edgar Martinez. Just because 243 home runs, 428, 314, 1,403 games at the position. Basically an unknown player, flourished at the age of very similar to David Ortiz, late in their 20s, and saved Seattle baseball. So I'm going to go with Edgar since you guys picked everybody. just because I believe in the true DHs. And if I had to put Edgar or Harold Baines, I would have to go with Edgar because he's one of the original DHs. And I'd probably hit him fifth.
I just want to give a shout out to my honorable mentions. Juan Rivera, old Los Angeles Angels.
Anaheim?
Yeah.
Anaheim?
You're going to have to give
He's from my neighborhood in Venezuela. Why is Juan Rivera on my show? Why is Juan Rivera on our show?
Yeah, because I'm giving
Why did you just say Juan Rivera on our show?
I am giving him a shout out.
Why?
Because we're talking about DHs and he put in work.
We're talking about all-time DHs.
Yeah, but honorable mentions.
Well, Juan Rivera's not even the all-time DH in his own country.
It doesn't matter. It's a very talented. It's a very talented country.
I'm like, he's not even the greatest DH in his own. He might even be the greatest DH in our hometown.
Bro, but that's a high bar. That's a high bar.
You didn't say
I said
Prince
Travis
Fielder.
Hammond.
You didn't say.
Well, he played first base.
I think Prince. You know who's up there? Chili Davis, 200 plus as a home run, as a Brian Downing.
Victor Martinez.
Victor Martinez would be a very interesting one to look at his numbers at catcher versus catching. He's like Joe Mauer. I think Kyle Schwarber, to be honest with you guys, I think he's going to end up being one of the top guys when it's all said and done. There's somebody we haven't mentioned. I'm glad nobody mentioned him, but I think he's going to be one of the top Hall of Famers. Shohei Ohtani.
Yep.
Dude, 66 as a DH. That's not as sick as 40-40 playing third base every day for the Cleveland team, but go look how many position players Shohei's taken deep.
A lot, a shit ton.
I know. So he's not innocent. He's stealing. He's Ricky Henderson it. He's stealing up 8 runs. He wants the stats. He wants 70-70. If Shohei Ohtani was playing in 1985, they would have drilled them like 35 times already this year.
And Skip Schumacher said he's pitching to him out of respect. So he puts a position player on the mound to give him 51.
And by the way, did they have the over on that one?
Man. Oh, Shohei knows.
Shohei knows. Oh, I'm sure there needs to be an investigation. I bet there was some action on 70-70 for him. Like he won't do it, but he's a freak.
Like, again, $10 million on him winning MVP.
Very, very, very. Yeah, he put it on himself. So very surprised. No, but I think that he's a current guy. And the part that was really good is that, again, maybe it's because of how new the position is. Everybody on the list I actually got to see playing consistently as a baseball fan, which was a really cool position to kind of debate on. Again, I think that if all would have been said and done, I think if Jim Thome's in the American League, he ends up with the best stats. He would have been closer to Frank's stats, but I think because Ozzy never managed Frank for a long time. Like Frank was gone after a year or two, so Jimmy came over and became like Ozzy's DH, and he was a true DH. Like I'm talking about, he didn't even have a glove. Jimmy didn't even play catch, like a legit DH. Like I'm here for 4 at-bats. I'm gonna work out from 12 o'clock in the morning to game time to get my back ready. And I'm going to go up there for 4 at-bats. I'm going to K either 3 times or I'm going to take you deep 2 or 3 times and hit, 40 plus doubles. I just thought that was so the focus of the level of like, he had this little machine. He had, now they use them for CrossFit a lot. Those bikes that you move and like the wheels turn and it's like air comes out, like a stationary bike, but, it's like a bike, but you move it with your hands and legs. A lot of the NBA teams have it on the side. LeBron's on it to stay loose. So he had one of those in the clubhouse, in the dugout. And he'd be in the cage and he'd be like doing his thing in between at bat so he could stay loose because his back was so tight. And then he would go and he'd be like taking like, flips and whatnot. So he was swinging like all day long. And I'm like, dude, this guy's swinging all day long. And all he's thinking about is like these 4 at bats that he's going to have. Like he doesn't think about like they're going to hit a ground ball. The mental stress, I think there's more mental stress in that position about you hitting than there is in other positions, because other positions you can forget about hitting if you're struggling. If you're hitting, that's like all you're doing. And that's why I think, Gonzo picked him, but he's one of the top guys up there because, he was in it. Like when he was a DH, like there was all DH, it was all about him was that. So,
maybe his back hurted because he carried so many trash ass fucking teams.
Maybe. Maybe including, by the way, and he was there's a part that's crazy. He was the DH and our number one offensive firepower when he came over. You know, people talk PK, but you know, everybody knew, even PK and those guys, like Jimmy was and they knew it. Like they were like, I don't know how he sits there and hits, you know, and just hits, because it's tough, man. And again, I got to see Frank do it as a visitor when he broke it, but I got to see Jimmy hit for his records. And just the humbleness. Like one time when Jim Thome got traded to when Jim Thome came to the White Sox, when he got traded. So my brothers and I grew up obviously going to Sox games, and our tickets were all 6 rows now, like where the scout seats are at. So like 3 rows deep in the scout seats. That's where our season tickets were at behind home plate. And our whole thing was like, we'd scream and we try to get players' reactions to look at us. And Jim Thome would play third base. And at the time, Cleveland was like stacked. And Jim Thome is probably the least hated player on that team. Like when they would walk out, we'd ask guys for autographs. And Jimmy was like a class act always. Again, he came over when he was probably a rookie, so he's probably nicer than, you know, other players because they were more studs. So we grew up watching like Jim Thome. So, and he was amazing. So then he goes to Philly, partnered up with Bobby Abreu. So we were always like,
hey, they had a nasty team.
Oh, dude, think about pitching to that team. Think about pitching to Abreu and Jim Thome, and like they're hitting minds. And we knew like Bobby is friends with our family, so he had told us like how smart Jimmy was, and Jimmy's like philosophy on hitting, and this dude's the best. So when he came to the Sox, we'd always talk baseball. Jimmy loves talking baseball, my brother and I. And he was like, man, you guys are nuts. Like, you guys like love baseball. He's like, I remember you guys when you guys were kids. And we're like, yeah, Paul Sorrento. Do you remember this? So he's like, what do you guys want to do? He's like, pick a date. So he's like, let's have an activity or something. Like, what would you guys like to do? Like, I'll go do anything you guys want, you guys. My brother and I were like, he probably thought we were going to be like, let's go to a club or whatever. And Jimmy don't get down like that. We said, can we go to dinner and just talk baseball? And we can ask you whatever we want. And he's like, deal. So we went to dinner, might be like Baltimore or something, and we just talked baseball. We're not talking like Paul Sorrento and Jimmy, and we're telling him like, and he was like loving it. And he was like, man, you guys are really big fans of the game. And then that was the day when my brother goes, it's going to be great. It's going to be great when we get to talk about this, when you become a Hall of Famer. And he was like, I don't know if he was like humble or it's just Jimmy being Jimmy, but he's like, do you guys think I'm going to make it to the Hall of Fame? Because I'm not sure. And we're both like, we looked at each other like dumbfounded, like, is he like pulling our legs? Like, you're a Hall of Famer if you retired right now. And he's like, what? And we're like, yeah, like you getting to those numbers is just like, you know, steroid era situation. You know, the only thing you haven't done is win a ring, which we don't think should be held against you. You know, had you been playing with the Yankees, you'd have 4, 5. You'd be the best player on that team. So that's probably one of the coolest things that he did. And then he used to do this thing, which I thought, now that I'm a dad, I always think about it. He used to have like a box, like a travel box. And he had like this, like a coffee set that was like specially built for him. Obviously, he's a huge dude. And they had like coffee dates, like tea dates. And he would play with his daughter. Like they had like a set date. And like he would literally sit on like this little chair that was made for him. So it's like Jim Thome's like sitting there playing like teacup with his daughter. So seeing him do all these things and chase when he's a millionaire, you know, awesome family. And he was doing it to chase the record and chase winning a ring. You know, I remember when he got traded to the Dodgers, I remember it was the Dodgers. We were in Minnesota and they were like convinced Jimmy to go to accept the trade because he didn't want to leave Chicago. And everybody was like, dude, you're going to go, you know, get a shot at winning. Like, we're out of it. Because he really wanted to win. Like he's one of those guys that didn't get to win the big one, just because the cards weren't into it. So I have a lot of respect for Jimmy as a player. Played very hard for Ozzy, a pro. One of the best guys that he ever managed was Jim. There, Gonzo, I'll give you your Jim Thome stories.
Dry your eyes right now.
Yeah, Gonzo's like.
I already bookmarked it. So I'm gonna clip that.
I also saw Jim Thome strike out like 12 kids in a row, throwing in a kids pitch game to his kid when he was like in kids pitch as a coach.
He's not trying to let
he was nasty. He couldn't throw. He was like, ah. I said, why they got you throwing to these kids? You haven't thrown a ball like in 20 years. Yes, you're a professional baseball player. The last 10 years of your career, you just hit. Like, you didn't even have a glove. Like, his glove was never like broken in. Like, he just, why would he?
It was display.
Why would it though? You're legit. Like, you're legit. And also probably one of the most impressive bats, meaning size and weight. The baseball bat Jimmy hit with, that's you're a real man.
What do you use, like a 35, 36?
Like a 48 by 48.
No.
Like, it was humongous, dude. It was big. It was, so usually guys are like, oh, let me hit with so-and-so's bat. Like, you're struggling, so you're like, give me whatever bat. And Jermaine hit with PK's hit with Jermaine. A lot of guys grab Jimmy's bat. A lot of guys. You're grabbing Jimmy's bat, you better think you're going to hit against a knuckleballer.
You got to tag AJ in that statement.
Yeah, it's just Jimmy. Yeah, dude, he was swinging it was, again, he's built just big, like naturally, like, and his
literally
dad would
Mr. Incredible.
It was just like, like when you have like a Mr. Baseball type of situation, like he was Mr. Baseball. Like, he signed for kids, he was like always so cordial, like everybody loved him. His kids were like, it was just like the all-time baseball guy. Like, his dad would come to the game. Dude, he had the home run. His dad was waiting for him with his wife. He was, he lived in Illinois.
We got that clip in our intro.
Yeah, I'm saying like he grew up in Illinois. He was here. Like, it's like a good story. Like, it was like cool to having him. Like, it was hard. Again, if it would have been like,
you are awesome, big man.
No, I'm just saying, like, it would have been. I hated Cleveland. I used to. I don't anymore. But when I was growing up, I hated Cleveland. And Big Jim was a part of that team. Jim was hitting like 6.
Bro, before they had Travis Fryman, they had Jim Thome at third base.
Yeah,
they literally moved Jim to first base.
Rookie year was 92.
Fryman.
Yeah, so they were like that was a good team. And again, they were rivals. So we got to see. Jimmy's probably one of the guys. I thought that was so cool. Like Griffey, when he came over, was because I got to see him as a kid. Like, we played against him a lot. So I got to see young Jim Thome. So I got to see his career, like, being like, damn, like, that's like when he came, there's a group of guys that when they walk in a clubhouse and players are like, that's so-and-so. Again, he's a Hall of Famer. Usually you get that credibility with that. But even as they're like, he had his aura. Him, Frank, like guys that are like, players that were on the team were looking up to these guys. Like, when he came over, guys would be like, hey, Jimmy, can you sign my jersey? And it's like a player, like, Griffey. Like right now, you're a player. You're not going like, Vargas, Romy, sign my jersey. Like, unless you're like friends with them.
So, as a fan standpoint, I've watched him hit in person. I've watched him hit 2 multi-home run games. The first one was 335, that first section, 300 level on the first base side, right there on the corner of that screen. And it was versus Cleveland. And then my golden birthday, I was the first row here on the visitors bullpen here. And it was a day game versus Detroit, and he hit another 2. I think the second one, I was like, I put my sign up. I'm like, hit here. He hit a fucking 2 rows right behind me. Fucking, it was meant to be. It was meant to be on my golden birthday.
So batting practice at guaranteed rate. Okay, everybody takes BP. He's one of the only few guys that I've seen go dead center over the like into
the shrubbery.
Lanes. The shrubbery. I'm talking about like go over like line drive, like if the shrubberies weren't there, to just go through
the home run he hit at Jacobs Field, the one he got the statue. It was a damn near a 500-foot line drive.
Yeah. So it was impressive. So another one, I don't think I've ever been at that stadium. I don't think I've ever been that upset. So he went back to Cleveland, and you guys know how much I like Cleveland now. Then I didn't like him very much. He went back to Jacobs Field and they booed him. And everybody was like livid. It'd be great to find like a clipping from Ozzy's press conference that day. Like he went off on Cleveland. I still think he probably still hates him now because of that. Like,
That's
how do you boo Jim
disrespectful.
Tomey? It is like you don't boo Jim. Like you don't boo Jim. Like you don't boo. There was remember the guy that had the flame arm tattoo? Picture of the Tigers, Zumaya.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Joel
one time,
Zumaya.
Joel Zumaya threw like 101 was nasty.
Yeah.
They brought him up rookie year with I think it was like rookie year, first 2 years in the big leagues, and he faces Jimmy. Jimmy's like, strikeout. Jimmy struck out 7,000 times. Like Jimmy struck out 3 times a game. It was like, just another day at the office. I went deep. I got a double. And Joel Zumaya like just big leagued them. And Jimmy was like, he was like shocked, and everybody was like, Joel Zumaya probably could have beat up every one-on-one. One-on-one, he probably whooped everybody's butt. Some guys 2-on-1, he probably would have whooped them. And everybody was screaming at him. Like, nuts. People were pissed. And I remember, I think it was Todd Jones, the closer.
The closer for the Tigers.
A reliever, the veteran. Dude, when Joel Zumaya walked in the clubhouse, like the dugout, Tiger on Tiger. Todd Jones was destroying him, like in his face. And Joel Zumaya like apologized afterwards. Like, I didn't, the moment got to me. I didn't mean, I didn't mean to it. I didn't know it was you. We're like, okay, we know, who it was. But that's who he is. Like the protection of, like, you don't do that. Like, it would have been somebody else. It would have been like, yeah, you did. Like if it would have been to Travis Hafner, we would have been like, yeah, he deserves it.
Deep. Tommy took him
deep. Eventually, yes, he took, yes. So that sort of thing, he had the respect of the game, and he's a great ambassador to the game now. But again, this list was probably the funnest one we've done, just because I got to see everybody play in the list. Like I didn't have to watch videos. Like, for the catchers, I think one guy I got to see play. I didn't get to see Yogi, and Carlton Fisk had his best, and Johnny Bench.
Yeah, I think for third base.
I got to see your guy playing. I got to see him go 0 for 4 a lot.
No, I'm saying no.
With the Mets.
You're not gonna stick me with David. You're not gonna stick me with David.
Nomar, by the way, I got to see Nomar. I got to see Nomar get eliminated on a yearly basis by the Yankees. I got to see him a lot too.
Yeah, injury bug.
Yeah,
very unlucky.
Injury bug.
Yeah.
Oh, Moncada too. So I have a question. Do you guys think that the White Sox are really not going to let Moncada play one more game?
It's getting skeptical. Like it's getting
to the point though that I need to see him at least one more. I need to see him at least one more time. So, yeah, dude, there's a part.
Driving around the car.
I'm saying though, he was hurt though. There's a part that's ironic. He was hurt. It wasn't like he's a suspension or like he was on a trip to the Bahamas. He was legitly hurt.
It's a tied game right now, 3-3.
I don't want us to make history.
By the way, how great would it be if they sweep straight through?
That'd be beautiful.
I haven't gotten so much action, guys, in my Twitter about a post since a while, like this Moncada post. I ruined a lot of people's days.
I didn't even see the reaction.
I said that we should have, like, they should let us, the Moncada fans, see him one more time in a Sox uniform.
Right. I want to give my boy a farewell, man.
Giolito got a video. Didn't he get a video?
Yeah.
Moncada's best season is better than Giolito's best season.
All right.
That's a fact, Jay.
That is a fact.
Yeah, so we're going to transition to our shout-outs. But before we go to shout-outs, for next week, guys, we're going to wrap up the White Sox, obviously. But we're going to talk about some playoff baseball, because by then we'll have the
Orioles are out.
The seedings.
Orioles are out. Dodgers are out.
We'll talk about playoff baseball. And then I think we're going to get into some fantasy baseball. We're going to save our all-time series for in the off season as we go into the outfield at that point. But we're going to talk about fantasy baseball and fantasy football too. But
Why
actually,
football?
Why not? This is a perfect time as we go into shoutouts to talk about your fantasy football.
By the way, my team's struggling so bad right now. I'm considering making a trade for Caleb. The irony of that is just so interesting.
He might win. He might get you into the playoffs. What are you talking about?
But whatever. I hope he gets me a win. I'm 0-3. I'm the White Sox right now. I'm about to get Pedro Grifol.
Can't relate.
I wasted too much. I wasted too much trying to beat you in the playoffs. My team just overloaded. First round battle. It just overloaded. It was too much. And I think I lost by 1 or 2 points in the at the end. But I did look very smart bringing up Ronald Acuna Jr. Not Ronald, Luis Angel Acuna.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, we're gonna definitely do baseball next week because
we can do baseball for sure. I'm gonna
bring probably KG on next week since it's him and Eric right now in our championship round. We're gonna have some fun with fantasy baseball because I want to bring in every owner. Eventually, I want to bring in every owner on the show, and we're gonna talk about their rosters and whatnot, and go into the off season with our draft setup coming up. But I did want to bring up football because I know KG will eventually bring up football because of Justin, because he loves talking about Justin's decisions, whether it's football or baseball. But at least on the football side of it, OJ, it looks like you're 0-3 like the New England Patriots right now. You beat me so this was a great week because we faced off 3 times this year in fantasy baseball. I was trying to go for the sweep. And you beat me.
I didn't beat you. I didn't beat you once in the regular season.
No, you beat me when it mattered. But then I was also facing you in football that week too, and I took the football win. So I'm happy that I at least got one of those victories that week.
Yeah, I don't even know who I played. Wait, I played. Was that the one I lost by like a decimal? Was that you?
No.
You gave me the whooping. You gave me the whooping.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts forgot he was a quarterback.
Oh, here he goes.
I'm just saying, by the way, like there should be a rule that you shouldn't run the ball that much when you're in that position. It's what I get for reading. That's what I get for reading CBS highlights on players to make a comeback this year.
You're fucking sick.
OJ, he had a rough last year in football, but I thought this year he had a better draft this year.
I did, and that's why I was expecting at least one win right now. I didn't think it was going to go 0-3. I feel like I'm Chris Getz. Like I thought my roster was just all set. We're going to be better.
I don't like my team.
I don't like my team. I don't like my team. That's why I was all game for not being the football thing, not being a keeper league. I was like, oh no, I don't want any of them. Get rid of them, all of them.
Yeah, it's a one-man keeper, so you got to keep one of them.
Nope. On this roster, the kicker from Kansas City.
not only for his performance, but for his
beliefs.
Beliefs.
Wait, he might be my best player right now on my team. That's how bad this is. This is gonna be my curse since I hated so much on Pedro. They're gonna let me. I'm just gonna go winless.
Daniel Jones is my keeper in this league, and I'm 3-0.
I'm trying to remember where you drafted Neighbors, OJ. I think that was 3rd round.
He's
Second
played fine.
round, maybe.
That was a good pick.
No, wait, was that your first or second round? I gotta go back and look. Yeah, it was your second because CD Lamb was your first.
Yeah.
I think the guy that you're gonna keep is probably gonna be McConkey eventually. With
my luck, I'm gonna keep Caleb. I'm gonna trade for him and then I'm gonna keep
Let's go.
Teach me a lesson. Hey, if he throws 52 times every game, I'll take him.
That'd be a tough one because I said anyone drafted after the 3rd round, so the 4th round, and he drafted them in the 3rd round.
But he never. But technically, the rule wouldn't apply to him because he never drafted Caleb.
Yeah. Very fortunate for you, OJ.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the
Gonzo,
case.
But if you're inquiring, you didn't draft Caleb either. Take notes, Rickon. Take notes.
You just want my players.
No.
But
by the way, if that's anything, by the way, really quick to wrap up the show. If Rick Hahn thought he was ever going to get hired after those articles, that's not happening. That's not happening.
I didn't think he was going to get hired regardless.
Well, I'm just saying you hold hope as a person, okay? Those articles that have been coming out, that's not good. That's not good for Pedro. Like, again, when you think Ozzy and Kenny's time was on toxic and all that, like for future hiring, those articles are not very helpful.
Yeah.
Right. Kenny and Ozzy, I'm not going to say they don't necessarily need another job, but we're looking at Pedro Grafal. Like, who's going to rehire Grafal or Rick Hahn when the only real ink you got on your resume is in regards to the Chicago White Sox?
I completely agree. Grifal's going to probably go coach a college team.
Yeah,
University
bro.
of Miami.
He might be the head of athletics at Olive Harvey.
I'm saying I think he might be a great college coach.
Before we go on to Justin, I just want to give some compliments here. Just looking at OJ's roster, I really liked your wide receivers out of that draft. Lamb, Neighbors, McConkey. I think that's gonna. You got some good firepower there. But
in baseball, I'm Theo. In football,
you're half of Howie Roseman.
I'm Rick. I might be Rick Jr. I'm throwing moves out here. I don't even know what's going on.
As we transition to Jay got the 7th seed last year, if I remember right, and he had a good draft, and he's 3-0 right now.
Yeah, love my team.
Why is this guy on my team? Ben Wright. Jesus.
My favorite pick, Jay, of your roster is Shakir.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, in the 12th round.
Yep.
I'm kind of biting the bullet on Hollywood Brown because him and Eckler are out, and I was using them as my they were going to be my flex down there. So now I got to get a little bit creative. Also, I'm
Lazard.
With tight end. With Dalton Schultz being out, I got to see where I can go in that regard too.
I got to do that too.
No, matter of fact, let me get that shit done right now.
I was going to decide if I was going to beat you to it or not.
No, yeah, I'm going to do it right now. So you're not going to do this to me. Gonzo, get the shout outs while I do this shit.
I got to try to beat you this tight end. Actually, I'll let you make your move before I make mine.
Somebody already got him.
I gotta wait. I gotta wait.
Shit up. Because
I changed my team name and my profile pic. Let's see if
I was going to try to grab Gesicki, but Nick.
Jay, that pick is just for you.
Nick got one?
I just changed my team name and my profile pic.
Let's see this horse shit. Oh boy.
I didn't even see it in the chat.
I'm talking about in my football.
All I see is Team Gens.
Yeah, you have to like log in and log out, maybe, or refresh it.
All right. Now you're making me seem like an old man who can't work his phone. I'm a little offended, OJ.
So, Team Sexy Grady.
Wow. What's this picture, bro? No.
I'm not even going to show that.
Is that
Don't
real?
show that. What?
Is that real?
Why would it be fake?
That's not my manager.
Oh, that's our manager.
That's not my manager.
That's our manager.
Wait, what? I didn't even see
That's our manager. You guys have never Googled him?
No.
Oh, man. That's why you should, yeah. He got it like that.
I understand why Grady's Ladies is a
yeah.
crowd.
Oh, yeah. Oh, women attendance has gone up.
That's Pedro?
No, that's not, dude. That's not even Pedro in his dreams. What are you talking about?
I just said Grady's Ladies.
By the way, if Pedro ever looked like that, he wouldn't even be walking. He'd be gliding. Oh, no. Cuban Caillou does not look like that.
All right, shout outs. Justin, lead us with shout outs.
All right. Shout out to Asia. She got a lot done in a short week. We just celebrated our 3-year anniversary on the 19th. Another calendar we peeled away. Happy. We went into this year happy. She's been working hard. So shout out to Asia. Thank you for giving me another 3 years. Also, I want to make myself very clear. I want to give a shout out to Ryan Poles and Caleb Williams for holding this team afloat in a world of turmoil and turbulence. Chris Morgan, get your shit together. Bobby Sloyd, get your shit together.
So my buddy just shared a
Waldron,
picture.
get your shit together.
Where did Slowick come from?
Yeah, because he's trying to kill CJ Stroud's fantasy value too. Don't think I don't see what you're doing.
All right. Go ahead, OJ. I'll let you shout out.
I was just saying real quick that the scoreboard is off. My friend just shared a picture. I guess in the 6th inning they turn off the scoreboards, but it's better be some electrical malfunction. Just more drama, more stuff. So shout out to Say Grady, my guy, just sitting out there taking beatings. Wow. The last week of NBC Sports, which is for us sports fans in Chicago, it's a channel that is in one of my favorites. Even though we love critiquing and doing that, it's brought a lot of entertainment. Very ironic that they started with the Chicago White Sox winning the World Series, and we saw a bunch of championships in between them, and now they're ending with the worst season in White Sox history. So very ironic. I'm looking forward for the new channel. A lot of great things. Looking bright for Ozzy to end up there and kind of continue the journey that they're on. So, but yeah, NBC last week, everybody that's been there, we know Slav worked there for a while. That's how we know him. Just great for sports Chicago history for fans like us from, White Sox, Bears, Bulls. At one point, the Cubs, you got all your coverage there. So I consume a lot of sports, probably more than I need to. Probably a lot of useless information in my brain. But yeah, so shout out to them in their anniversary, and looking forward to now continuing the saga that is White Sox, and we're going to be here to cover it. Like I said the other day, for better or for worse, man. I'm not a fan of the team. At this point, I feel like I'm a historian of the team, and I'm going to be for the rest of my life because I got to be there and a great time in the team's history. And I grew up being a White Sox fan, so I know the history very well. So it's interesting. Then the last shout out is to, which Gonzo's going to laugh at this because I don't know, he's not expecting this. Shout out to the Barons. I hope the media does not find out that they won and start posting a bunch of dumb stuff that they're going to be the next coming and somebody's stupid project with a stupid name. They're doing what they're supposed to do. I don't know how great they're going to be. I don't know who's going to be an all-star, who's going to be a Hall of Famer, who's going to be a bust. But if I'm sitting in the front office, I'd want my minor league teams to win championships. It builds culture. It shows that the guys are developing. It means that we're doing something right in those guys, and then hopefully they get to do it next year and then develop. And that's just good. That's just great. It hadn't happened in a long time in the White Sox organization, but that's good. It's a good thing. I'm not saying that they're going to be great, that they're going to be awesome, but it's a good sign from this horrible of a season that they got to do that. And it gives you a time frame, kind of like, okay, these guys are coming up. So shout out to them. And it was really funny because I could definitely tell where Noah Schultz was at during the whole video. I didn't realize how big, like how tall he was compared to everybody else. I've never seen Noah in person. And I feel like every time I saw him, he's on the mound. So I never seen him like walking around other human beings. Yeah, he's like Randy Johnson.
He's like 6'7", right?
Yeah, like one thing they tell you, you're 6'7". Again, when you're in the NBA, other guys are. I just felt I didn't know that everyone was so short in baseball, like shorter. Like he looks like different, but he's up there. Like
you'll be bigger. Size. You remember my best friend Chad at the live show?
Yeah, he's gonna, but yeah, he's like a Randy Johnson. But that was funny because I was like, well, because I was trying to figure out who the players were when they walked it off and like who was celebrating just to kind of see what they were doing. I was like, well, the only person I can call out like right now is Noah. And our show's gonna be a lot of, again, I know that I don't like it talking a lot about prospects, but we have to follow them because the next couple of seasons are going to be about that, and we're going to be here to report it. So between this and Caleb, we'll keep it interesting.
And that's fine because you got guys like me, Justin, that can kind of keep you along
My
the
name
path
is Jay.
with the.
Okay.
By the
My
way,
name is Jay.
Justin Fields, yeah, he's 3-0.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's 3 years ahead. He's 3 years ahead in development.
No, he's not.
Hey, is.
Yeah.
Just because I think Carroll, I like. By the way, just just like Carroll coming up, he needs to be there.
Caleb's doing things that Justin wasn't doing his first year.
Yeah, throwing 52 times.
No, like literally at the line of scrimmage with his pre-snap coverage, like calling out the coverage.
I'm not gonna lie though, his drop back pass to Rome was like, oh damn, they should be doing that. If I was playing Madden, there'd be a lot of that going on.
He even had that one. It was
so that was impressive.
Similar. It was a similar one where he juked the edge.
No, the guy dropped
him and he had to sling it. He slung it right in the seam.
He came for the sack and he turned through from the sack. He turned and then threw it in the middle. That one was pretty good. Yeah, that was a pretty good.
I'm not sure because I like when I saw it on the TV feed of it, I was like, okay. But then like CHGO in the interview that they did with Komet, Hogue took screenshots of it, and like if you saw the screenshots of it, like in the breakdown of this, like at different moments of that play, especially when he went to the screenshot that they took of him throwing it, you literally saw the guy underneath was right there on the seam. And then the guy behind him was just like right there. So that window that he had to fit that pass, it was ridiculous. But like on a TV feed, it didn't look like it was that close. And I'm sure, the All-22, you break that down too. And you see not the screenshots of it, but the live feed of it. Just ridiculous, some of those throws that were made. So, but yeah, Jay's looking at me like, shut the fuck up, let's go. But
no.
It's going to be an interesting couple games.
And Rome dropped the pass, by the way, which I did not. I know we should end the show, but Rome dropped the pass, even though I've been like saying that he's amazing and he hasn't done anything. He dropped the pass. It should have been a touchdown in the end zone.
A couple of times.
No, one time. That one he should have had.
Season.
It was like a little drop back, like flare pass, which is awesome, like a little bucket thing.
The
he
Texans.
Did it. Yeah, and he he should have had that one.
It happens.
So he's not perfect.
I thought you were talking about last game where he had it right here, and then he just fucking didn't
that one wasn't
it.
That one
went off his hands, and then the DB made the acrobatic catch on the sideline.
Yeah, that one was more of like, I think he might have thrown it hard and this was just soft, but no, that one, the other one, it should have been like, I could have called the other one.
What I like is that you're starting to see Rome like starting to find himself.
He's a beast. He's a beast. He's gonna be a beast. He's gonna be good. Good.
I mean, this was just me, but I had Rome and this was before the Bears even drafted him. That class, I had Rome as the number 1 receiver. I had Rome, Neighbors, Harrison.
Fail fast, adjust. That's what the White Sox need to do, just like the Bears. Fail fast, adjust, and don't bring somebody that thinks they're too smart for their own good.
All right. And my shout outs. Shout out Deej, thanks for being in the chat. Appreciate you, boss. Who else we got here in the chat that I saw? Oh, I didn't even see that Yoda that got in here. Thanks for joining us, boss. Appreciate you. Yeah, and that reminds me, Sox are still, it's 3-3 game going into extras. History is still on the line. Shout out to KG. He's at the game right now. He'll be with us next week. We'll have KG on. Other than that, I want to shout out my mom. Send me some nice cinnamon raisin bread, homemade. It was Justin.
Wait, am I gonna have another show if I go to Venezuela?
I wasn't expecting that.
I see if I got it here. Actually,
yeah, put it in my face. Matter of fact, let's make Gonzo bigger. Fuck it.
I'm not even sure if you can see the.
Oh.
Yes.
And then you see the glaze. You see the glaze there. You see the glaze.
Yeah,
the cinnamon
glaze. Big win, mom.
Big win. That was actually the neighbor, but mom, she bought some and sent it my way. Mom came in clutch.
Let's get this bread.
And then I also got some leave granted. so I'm coming home November, then making a trip in December to New York. So
oh, that's not the good news. I thought this was happy time.
But that's going to be my shout outs for tonight. For next week, guys, we're going to wrap up the White Sox talk without, if we have to cover this history part of it, that'll be next week. We're going to wrap the White Sox up. We're going to talk about playoffs coming up for the MLB. And I actually I've been telling my coworkers here for the past 2 weeks, there's two of my coworkers are Mets fans, and then there's several Padres fans, obviously, but I've been telling them for the past 2 weeks that it's going to be Padres, Diamondbacks, and Mets for the wild cards. So I'm happy if that comes into fruition because it looks
Padres
like
Padres got a chance at the division.
Yeah, 3 games, right? Going into yesterday. They might take division. Those Dodger fans are getting nervous.
That might be the team that wins the World Series. The San Diego.
Who?
The Padres.
Okay, on that
I'm
note,
still going.
Let's go Garcia Parra.
I'm still going Phillies, but
Phillies will make Ozzie Jr. money.
More playoff baseball talk next week.
Oh, by the way, for all the White Sox fans out there, the video of the owner saying, "Bring the trophy back." He never had the trophy. He's never had the trophy ever in his life as a majority owner. So just out there, people saying, "That's the owner that I want. He wants his trophy back." I'm like, he's never had it. He's never been an owner. He was a minority owner when the Phillies won the last time, like a 1% owner. You probably got him some like club seats for the rest of the season. It was not his money on the line. This is his first shot at he's been to the World Series as an owner, but he's not won one. Took over in 2016, took him a couple years to build, but he is fresh. He is 10 years into being the champion, which again, the White Sox maybe were second phase when you have Michael Jordan. I think he probably wanted to win more with the Bulls then than the White Sox, but again, so Jerry has more rings than him. Can end the show on that.
And for next week, we're talking fantasy baseball. Friends, thank you for tuning in and watching.